Welcome back to Verge News, where we bring you the latest updates and developments on immigration policies shaping our world. I'm Ava, and today we're diving into one of the most talked about topics in immigration right now, the Trump administration's new national registry policy for undocumented immigrants. Joining me is my co-host Daniel. Daniel, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Ava. It's great to be here. And wow, this policy is definitely stirring up a storm. With potential jail time and fines for undocumented immigrants who don't register, it's no surprise it's already sparking legal challenges and major debates.
Absolutely. The executive order is called Protecting the American People Against Invasion, and it was signed on January 20th, 2025. It essentially mandates all undocumented immigrants to provide personal information, including names, addresses, and how they entered the country, plus potentially biometric data like fingerprints and photos.
Right. And there's a lot at stake here. Those who fail to comply could face jail time, steep fines, and even prioritized deportation. But the Trump administration hasn't announced a registration deadline yet, which adds more uncertainty.
Exactly, Daniel. What really stands out is how critics are calling this policy a violation of constitutional rights like the Fifth Amendment because it might lead to self-incrimination, and the Fourth Amendment due to privacy concerns with biometric data collection.
And let's not forget the due process concerns, Ava. Critics are saying this policy doesn't account for basic legal protections, which are supposed to apply to everyone, regardless of immigration status. Advocacy groups aren't happy, and lawsuits have already started rolling in.
That's a good point. One case, New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support v. Donald J. Trump, was filed the same day the order was signed. And another case, New Jersey v. Trump, came just one day later. Both are challenging the legality and ethics of the executive order.
And it doesn't stop there. Just a few days later, on January 23rd, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order in the Washington v. Trump case, freezing implementation for now. But we know the administration plans to appeal this, which could make it a long legal battle.
It's a lot for immigrant communities to process. Experts worry this policy might create fear and mistrust, especially since it echoes the National Security Entry-Exit Registration System, or NSERS, from post-9/11. That system targeted immigrants from certain Muslim-majority countries and was eventually scrapped in 2016 after heavy criticism.
Yeah, critics are saying this could lead to similar issues, like racial profiling and stigma against undocumented immigrants. And while the administration frames it as a public safety measure, data consistently shows undocumented immigrants have lower crime rates than native-born citizens.
That contradiction is definitely fueling the controversy. On top of that, enforcement measures tied to this policy are pretty aggressive. The Department of Homeland Security, for instance, is expanding INA 287G agreements, which let local law enforcement act as immigration agents. Historically, this has strained relationships with immigrant communities.
Not to mention the creation of federal Homeland Security task forces in every state. These teams are meant to work with local authorities, but it raises questions about data sharing and privacy violations between federal, state, and local governments. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. Another contentious element is the push against sanctuary jurisdictions. The executive order directs the Attorney General and DHS to go after these areas by revoking federal funding or even taking legal action. Cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles are already being flagged as potential targets.
And don't forget the implications for nonprofits and community organizations. The policy threatens to strip funding from groups that assist undocumented immigrants, which could weaken safety nets for some of the most vulnerable families. Advocates are calling this provision the non-profit killer.
It's a fitting nickname, unfortunately. So many families and children depend on these organizations, and now these groups are caught in the crossfire of what's essentially a crackdown on anyone who might support undocumented individuals.
For now, everything hinges on the legal system. As the courts debate the constitutionality and ethics of this registry, millions of undocumented immigrants are left in limbo, unsure of what's next. Advocates are urging people to consult legal professionals and stay informed.
A lot of uncertainty ahead, Daniel. But one thing's certain, this policy is shaping up to be one of the Trump administration's most aggressive immigration measures yet, and the outcome will have lasting implications.
Couldn't agree more, Ava. And with legal and public debates continuing, we'll be keeping a close eye on any updates.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to Verge News. For more updates on immigration policy and key developments, visit us at visaverge.com. See you next time.